Hello everyone. Today we are going to review The Blue Lagoon. Um, this movie is from 1980, so it is 40 years old now? Yes, that's correct. Yes. Um, yeah. Starring Brooke Shields, who I do know of, but I don't know what else I've seen her in. I'm sure I've seen her in some other movies. Now, this movie was rated R, which I found, I guess in a way, made sense. Um, So this movie starts out with two children on this ship, one of them named M and one of them named Richard. Um, M is traveling with her father to San Francisco, and I'm not really sure why Richard was on the ship or whether his parents were somehow there too and they just never showed them. Anyhow, the ship they're on catches on fire, and they have to evacuate the ship, or with at least as many people as they can, get off the ship, including M and Richard, and this guy named Patty that they had this lifeboat with, and they go into this fog and they get separated from M's father, and they end up finding this island. Sorry. And they end up finding this island, and Patty kind of takes them in as, I guess, his own children in a way. I guess there was no relation between the two of them. So Patty shows them how to build and kind of survive on this island, forage for food and water, and among other things. He also finds the other side of the island and finds this cannibalistic tribe, and they play drums almost every night, I would say. Patty does eventually pass away, unfortunately, probably due to, I would say, alcohol poisoning, maybe, or just natural causes. I'm not really sure which. He just goes out into the water one night with his barrel of rum, and they find him the next morning dead. So they are then, sorry, so they are then on the island alone, and they kind of have to grow up without a parental guide to help them along the way. They seem to do pretty okay. They kind of learn the skills that Patty taught them and take that and then build their own like house almost on the island. Uh, Richard throughout the movie tries to build a ship to get off the island. It fails. Um, they seem to kind of fight all the time. Once they finally grow up into teenagers, and that's probably because obviously they start to develop feelings for one another, but they can't really explain it because they don't have any other social interactions but between the two of them. So it was kind of interesting to see that develop. They do eventually, it does eventually develop into a relationship. Um, M first goes over to the side of the island that she was told not to. She thinks she's found God, so they have some sort of religious background, I guess, when they were kids. Um, she also steps on this fish at one part in the movie that's, I guess, somewhat poisonous to her, and Richard kind of nurses her back to health, or at least helps her back to health, I guess. She kind of, I guess the poison just eventually left her system, so it wasn't completely deadly to people, but she was sick there for a little while in the movie. Their relationship starts to develop, I think, after that scene. And then eventually, M becomes pregnant. They have a child. I would say probably at least 1-2 years passes. Um, then what was it that happened? Yeah, they raise a child, show him how to survive on the island, and then the little boat that they have, M asks Richard to take her to the other side of the island. I guess she falls asleep on the boat and it starts to drift out into the sea again. So she calls on Richard to come and get the boat. There's a shark in the water, um, which I thought was kind of odd because I thought of all the ways that they were going to end up having any trouble. would have been with the cannibalistic tribe coming and trying to take them away. But I guess that didn't happen. Richard only just finds them and sees that they are basically sacrificing people and just blatantly doing it just to eat one another because they have no other food source, I guess, as far as meat goes. Well, they really did, because they could have just fished, but anyhow, yeah, cannibalistic tribe on the island with them. I guess they never actually crossed paths, which I found kind of odd, because that would have been interesting to add into the movie, just to see how they would have handled themselves in that sort of situation, or whether they would have just ended up dead in that situation. Anyway, so the boat drifts away into sea. There was a ship that came early in the movie, but Em didn't like the signal fire because she wants to stay on the island, and Richard wants to get off of it. I think it might have been the same ship, or another ship, or the same ship possibly comes back again. This man is on it with his telescope. Is that? Yeah, telescope. That's what I'm going to call it. He zooms in on these people on the island and says, "No, there's no way it could be them." So I think it was M's father that was on the boat, and he doesn't believe that there was any way it could have been M, because they had a child, and yeah, I guess maybe that was what threw him off. But anyhow, so the ship turns around and leaves. Then obviously their small boat drifts out into water, and their kid has found these go to sleep berries, which Patty told M not to eat at the beginning of the movie, because if you eat them you go to sleep and you never wake up. So they find their kid eating them when they wake up on their little boat, and they realize that I guess their kid might end up dying. So Richard basically just takes the last of the berries off of the little bush that he has, splits them in half, and then Richard and M eat their share, and I guess it's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet type story, really. They end up just killing themselves, which was kind of an unfitting ending to that story, because, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because everything was so happy throughout the entire movie, and then something dramatic happens, and then they don't really see any other way out of it. Then, of course, the ship comes back around, and at the end of the movie, they go out to see who's on the little boat, and of course the guy hops on and says, and then I believe it was M's father, so he says to the guy that gets on their boat, "Are they dead?" And he says, "No, they're just sleeping." So I was really confused as to whether that was his way of saying that they had passed away, or whether they were actually just, the go-to-sleep berries were just really put you in like a sleeping state. It was really kind of a weird anticlimactic ending. Am I saying that right? Anyhow, but I guess the movie overall was actually not too bad for such an old film. I know there's obviously films older than this, but for me, a 40-year-old film is fairly old. So yeah, I would give this movie probably an 8.5 out of 10, just because, the ending seemed a little odd to me, so that kind of threw me off, because I was like, are they dead? Aren't they dead? Like, did they save them in time? It was just a weird kind of cliffhanger ending. But other than that, the movie was good. The acting was good. I don't really know any of the other actors, but the guy on the boat at the end that was playing the father kind of looked like Gene Shalit, if you know who that is. And who knows, it actually might have been, but my phone's charging right now, so I can't actually check to see everybody who was acting in that movie. But anyhow, I guess the main focus was the actual kids on the island, right, and them having the baby and that storyline. So the storyline overall was good. There are a couple more things I would have liked to see in the movie, like him having to fight off the tribe possibly at one point in time, but I guess he never did. It was just kind of like a little bit of a horror element in the movie, which wasn't necessarily bad, because I guess they had to have some sort of bad aspect in all of the good, I suppose. But other than that, I don't think I have any criticisms of this film. So please like, share, and subscribe, and comment down below your thoughts on this film if you've ever seen it. This is an older one, so I'm assuming possibly more people who view this will have seen it by now. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye for now.